Wednesday, May 8th, Board of Public Works and Safety meeting to order. It is 9:06, my apologies. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Bert Cook. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of minutes, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I do not have any public comment cards. Is there anything online? Clerk Treasurer Parthune.
We have civil city payroll in the amount of $524,074.11.
I move we approve the civil city payroll.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Civil city claims in the amount of $1,131,436.40.
I move we approve the civil city claims.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Sewage claims in the amount of $460,208.75.
I move we approve the sewage claims.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Water claims in the amount of $378,386.70.
I move we approve the water claims.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Department head reports. We have a lot on the table today, so please be to the point. We'll begin with Craig Phillips, Planning.
Good morning. One thing I'm excited to announce is that we're finally ready to start the city's comprehensive and transportation plan process. We've finally gone through all the steps necessary to kick that off, so we'll be starting that project, which is pretty important to the city for taking a look at truck routes, truck traffic downtown, et cetera, many things like that. Also working on several grants involving economic development, infrastructure, as well as infrastructure necessary for providing additional housing in the city, and some of the other housing-related efforts I'll talk about later in the agenda. So that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Tim Werner, Water.
Good morning to the board. I just wanted to thank the public. We finished our spring flushing last week. Thanks to the public for all their help during that process. We had a few dirty water complaints, but everything cleared up right away. We didn't have to do any low flows in the areas. And I received word Monday that we are on the drilling schedule for our new wells. Probably about 3 weeks, you'll see drill rigs in the park drill those 2 new wells. That's all I have this morning.
Jerry Jackson, Wastewater. Nick Minnick, Engineering.
Nothing this morning, thank you.
Nick Otis, Legal.
Nope.
Jeff Batchelor, Code.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of comment about the condition of Ollie's parking lot, where they got the donation boxes out there. This weekend, people just threw stuff all over the ground, and there's mattresses out there. The street department's gonna go out there and pick it up. We got the dumpsters for the specific reason to get them filled, and people are still continuing to take and do this. It's just ridiculous. I don't understand what the problem is with people. We actually,
They're lazy, and it's
Well,
embarrassing for them.
people took and complained that we weren't open on the weekends. We opened them up for the first and third Saturdays of the month, so that they have a chance to throw stuff in there on the weekends too. If you see it, report it. Take a picture of a license plate, do something like that, because, I mean, we're trying to take and beautify the city and clean it up. There's no reason for that. And then also, in the tree lawn around the city, you have grass that's being cut, that's your property. Even though it's the city's, it's still your responsibility to cut that grass. If you drive down Lincoln Way, on the side of the road, you can see grass growing. It's gotta be 1.5 feet tall. There's no reason for that. Take some pride in your neighborhood and cut your grass.
That's the word, is pride. Show some respect to your community. And people are cutting the grass and then leaving, which would take probably 12 seconds of a swipe, leaving it all high at the end. But then the Ollie's things, people ought to be embarrassed of themselves for the ones that threw that out there. So if you see them, if there's cameras, let's nail them.
Gotcha.
Chief Buell.
All right, I have a few things. On April 29th, we swore in a new officer, Devin Hammonds Flanagan, and he is riding along with the officers right now and being exposed to the operation and how the shifts work. We've made 2 conditional offers of employment, one to Aiden Yataw and the other to Isaias Reyes. Mr. Reyes is a Chicago police officer that left there in another community, so he'd be a lateral move. He has enough training time. So we're anxious to get him going. We have one more person in the background process, so hopefully he'll come out positive. This week, we started the install of our body cams in the vehicles and on the vest and outer carriers, those sorts of things. So it's going well. It's, besides all that going on, the guys still have to work their shifts. They have classes that they're attending, and so far, it's going very well. On the 4 and 4, 4 days on, 4 days off, trial period went very well last month. Guys are really excited about it. The only issue we have, like anything else, is the manpower issue. Right now, Midnights is running the trial run. And we're working on a technology grant through Congressman Mervan's office, and we're in the initial stages. That's looking very positive, and we can do some upgrades in our technology at the department.
How much did you apply for?
Initially, 1.1 million, and some of the things won't qualify, so we're in that process of negotiating some of it, but right now, we're closer to 400,000. And that's gonna help with laptops, night vision, pinhole cameras, the narcotic analyzer, which is narc. So hopefully those things can come through yet.
And hopefully the legislature will consider the technology of the speed cams at school crossings, so our officers don't have to be there. They did it for workforce safety. I said, I just don't understand why we can't authorize those for school bus crossing. We're waiting for something to happen. Right. You put those up there, and people will slow down.
Sure.
Chief, is Congressman Mervan fully behind the grant?
I'm sorry?
Is Congressman Mervan fully behind the grant?
It sure appears that way, yes. We're working with his office personnel that are in charge of it right now, but it seems very positive, and Mayor, I don't know if you can expound on that or not.
Yes, he has been very supportive, and especially because this is the only law enforcement grant that has been applied for, and they really wanted to see law enforcement. So, yeah. I think
Just
this
as a
is
side note, we had an officer and Caitlin attend a class for additional grants, and there's another $48 million out there in grants that we're looking at to get a part of to help us out.
And these grants could potentially fund, like you said, the crossing cameras?
Well, it's not,
We're not crossing
it's
cameras.
not legal in Indiana right now.
Oh, okay, that's what you,
So we need the legislature in a budget year next. Our goal is to get there and try to get something approved and not wait till an accident happens.
So it's legal for construction sites. Is that what you
For
said?
workforce, or work, I forget what they call it in dots here, and but there are certain areas that you can put cameras up on the highway to keep people safe, and the legislature passed that, but right now, that's it. But I can tell you, it works in Illinois. I have a child that lives there, and somehow I'm getting mail from the city of Chicago on these cameras that seem to catch her doing things, so,
I need to move that title ownership over.
yes. Kelly Burke, Fire.
Good morning. Just have to report that we had 17 applicants make it past the aptitude test for the hiring list, and they'll be interviewing next week for their place on the list.
And thank you both for participating in Battle of the Badges. Appreciate that. Bert Cook. I have no report this morning. Mark Schreiber Parks is going to come forward and tell us who the band is for Lake Fest. We're so excited for that announcement.
We wouldn't announce it here, but we will announce it soon. We're excited for Lake Fest, but Board of Works meetings isn't typically where we get a big bang for our buck.
Such a
Anyways, just really quickly, I'm going to piggyback on what Mr. Batchelor said, we also have a dumpster in Lindenwald Park that's getting abused quite a bit with residential garbage, construction waste, things of that nature. That dumpster is strictly for park department usage or for the people who rent the shelter there to be able to throw their stuff away when they have large family reunions and such. So if anybody sees anybody other than what seems like a legitimate use, please, and again, see something, say something. Do want to mention our Foodie Tuesdays that is coming up, Tuesday, May 28th. We did post to Facebook yesterday the full list of vendors for this year, kicking off with Rico Suave on May 28th. That will run every Tuesday through August 27th at Unity Park from 10:30 to 2:30. We do have 4 Foodie Tuesday nights again, the first Tuesday of each month, July 4th, July 2nd, June 4th, July 2nd, and August 6th. That runs from 4 to 7 o'clock. We also are bringing the movies in the park back this summer. We have 5 dates already on the books. All of them will be at the amphitheater except for the second on July 28th will be on the lawn at the Civic Auditorium. We got a great lineup of movies and are still looking for some sponsors. So people can find all that information on laporteparkandrec.com or on our Facebook page.
The foodie nights, they're also at Unity Park?
Correct. Yep,
Okay.
everything's at Unity Park. It's the same vendor that was there during the day. They stay and they do a dinner at night. We had a number of residents who worked during the day that were disappointed they were missing out, so we figured we'd accommodate them at least once a month.
Mike Frey, Streets.
We're doing our street sweeping. We're just gonna do the overpass starting tomorrow. Patching, tree cutting. Today and tomorrow, we're doing CPR training, and the new sign machine's getting trained on today.
And pothole-free Laporte, if people see potholes, 48 hours, we'll try to get them filled, right? What's the number they call?
219-362-2477.
Good work, Michael. Jess Bruder, Communications. Andrea Smith, HR. No report, sir. And Beth West, I don't think is here. This will be her final department head meeting. I've appreciated Beth's work and effort with the city, with transport, and then before that at the police department. We'll be transitioning, obviously, transportation and the financial support at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local level is changing. So we're gonna be updating how we manage transport, how we do transport. We're gonna make sure that transport for especially the seniors and especially our low income lasts a lot longer than we're here. And we're making improvements, I think, and we're making adjustments to make sure that transport is going to be here, which I am fully committed to. So stay tuned for more, but we're gonna make sure those rides are always available. All right, any department head that does not have business before us can go have a great, enjoyable day. New business, surveillance agreement, New Age Telecom, Annette Leffler.
Hi. Last year, I asked New Age Telecom to come in and look at our camera situation on the inside and the outside of the building. And I worked with our then Assistant Chief to help define what was needed. We have a camera system now. It's pretty old, it's outdated. We'd had a couple incidents last summer where the police tried to use our camera, our tape, for evidence, and it was so unclear that they really couldn't use it. They couldn't get any valuable information off of it. So I started looking at this. So the estimate, I got an estimate from them last year, and then worked with Courtney and her office to encumber as much of it as I could. So this year, I asked New Age to come back in. They updated their estimate for me, and this includes all new cameras, the installation, server that would be in-house, that would be not only accessible from our building, but the police would be able to access our footage from the police department also. So the contract is for $30,227.07, and I am $2,000 short on around $2,000 short on the money I was able to put together, but I'll work with Courtney to find that money in my budget.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I think it's important to know, you see the lack of security that we have here in City Hall, and this is as close as we have right now, and we need to make sure we have good coverage for all our employees to protect them.
And the bottom line is it's insufficient right now
Yeah.
for any type of action. So, and this would cover every inside and outside the building, right?
Yes. And it's all new cameras, all new monitors, everything it would be new. Like, you look right now, we don't have a camera here, for surveillance purposes. So, and we actually had an incident, we think somebody tried to break into this back door, and we couldn't find anything about it. There was no footage, there was no camera, so, yeah,
Where's the dog? We just need the dog here.
that's right, that's what we need. You could be a /guard dog and support dog, that's what we need.
Tricky.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Nick Otis,
Much.
Highway 35, Indiana Ave, a great project. If people have seen the pictures, it's going to look phenomenal. We have a great working relationship with our friends at NDOT. And in fact, I had a few questions, and Mike from NDOT and I had a chance to sit down. It's my fault, my apologies that it was such last minute, but there's still some things we want to work out. I've shared that with Mike, and Adam's here, Parkhouse, my good friend there too. But Nick Otis.
Thank you. I'm going to touch on the high points and then turn it over to Nick Minnick. And Jerry Jackson may have some things too as well on this. So this is an interlocal cooperative agreement on a project that's been talked about a lot, upgrades to US Highway 35, commonly known as Indiana Ave here in LaPorte. It's an interlocal, allowing us to work directly with NDOT on this project. As been planned for many years, when NDOT tears up the road, we plan to do some pretty significant upgrades to utilities in that area. Makes sense when the road's torn up to do that. So the project collectively is at $36.5 million, and the city has agreed for project upgrades estimated about $4.7 million. I'll turn it over to Nick Minnick, and then maybe Jerry has something to add as well, and even Tim.
Yeah, state's been really excellent to work with on this project, really taking into account the needs of the city here. With the US 35 upgrade, a lot of times this would be called a betterment agreement. So essentially, there's a necessity for the highway to handle a certain amount of stormwater and different things. The additional items, whether they be utility or otherwise, are then included in this agreement. So anything above and beyond the state's need within the street falls on the city. A lot of times sidewalks are in here, but there's a determination early that NDOT was actually going to be responsible for the reconstruction of those sidewalks. There's just a lot of give and taking back and forth to figure out all what is included, but really it's water main upsizing, storm sewer upsizing, sanitary sewer upgrades. We've included some lighting, which has been a desire for that area for quite some time, to have a little more sufficient lighting. And then some kind of detention basin resizing, so there's extra stormwater capacity, and improvements to some of the side streets that aren't within the NDOT right-of-way that kind of lead into this project as well, so.
You said sidewalks. That brought up just kind of who's responsible for payment of the sidewalks?
Initially, when we started the project, working with NDOT on the project 3-4 years ago, when it really started the design phase, the city was gonna be responsible for sidewalks, but they did some additional research and found that because of when the state acquired the right-of-way, because it was already a platted right-of-way ahead of that, then in this case, which is kind of a rare circumstance, the state would be able to fund those sidewalks. A lot of times, the state would require the local community to do anything involving sidewalks minus the curb ramps at the corners. So they did some extra legwork to dig back through the history and find that they would be able to, and then they did include the state paying for those sidewalks in the project.
And just from a Board of Works membership, that's awesome. And so the two guys that are here, representatives are here, that is a big cost, and that's important. So I'm gonna put out thank you to both of you, because we didn't have that on Lincoln Way. And we still have some sidewalk issues there, so this means a lot. That's a big cost, so thank you there.
That's for full length of the reconstruction, both sides?
Where they exist now, more or less. So there's some changes here or there.
Oh, 'cause there's
to
a couple
improve-
spots where there are
Yeah,
no's.
to improve kind of the crossing down by Kingsbury, things like that. But it's not really adding new sidewalks past where they exist, but it is repairing and replacing the ones that are within the right-of-way now.
And this road being done, with our infrastructure being done, will also help if the county actually does something to provide alternative routes for trucks. And we've sat on this, and we sit on this, and we see development happen, but when is the last time you've seen the county put up a new road? And we can't wait till KIP hits, which we're fully, I don't know anybody in this room that's not supportive of KIP developing. We obviously have big announcements, but somebody's gonna have to make a tough decision at the county at some point. You can't hide forever. And let's start looking to provide alternative routes other than through the middle of our downtown, because KIP happens, those trucks are not coming on Indiana. And I've got plans of my own to stop them. And they need to find routes, alternative routes. So this is a good project. I did meet with Mike from NDOT earlier, and things can be adjusted, and they've been willing to work with us in the future. So while this project moves forward, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion?
Just, so of the 36 million amount, does that include the city's portion?
It does, correct.
That's within that, okay.
And just to be clear, what happens is, we have this agreement, these are based on current estimates by the engineers. When it actually lets, so when the project is awarded, these numbers may adjust. If it's too high, then they don't award the project. So it may go up slightly, it may go down slightly, but this is not a final exact number. It's a current estimate.
And they'll ask for a check in September from us, so water and sewer rates are gonna need to be adjusted, and a bond anticipation note.
Is September the 30 days after? Because I think it's 30 days after. If anybody from NDOT would like to speak, come forward, or Mike, come on up, buddy. And state your name for the record.
My name is Michael Gerlowitz, working for NDOT, partnering with the city on this project. Payment for this will come 30 days, due 30 days after bid, which currently is August 14th, 2024. So then we'll have 30 days for you guys to submit payment after we go through the bid history and make sure that all the pay items you guys incorporated is sent back to you guys to make sure, all right, this is the amount you guys want to owe, and then that amount will be invoiced towards you guys.
30 days is not August, it's after the August.
After August, correct. So September 14th, I would say,
13th.
is the last day.
And this
For
is
the full amount?
For the full amount.
So these won't be like in pay installments like we typically do with other things, it's all one great big check.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing where they take our check, put it in a dedicated account, and then pay out of it as the project goes along. We've done that with other people too, for city projects.
But also, you are gonna do work. It's not as if you're not doing anything in
Correct, yeah.
August through the winter.
2024, the plan is to start the outfall portion, which is the detention basin, storm sewers, working from, starting pretty much at Boyd, working towards 35, and then we'll stop once we get about to Kingsbury Ave, and then winter over, then 2025, spring, we'll start the roadway work, working our way north.
Is the whole project bid together, like our portion's not bid separately, correct?
It is not bid separately, and that's where the engineers have determined all the pay items that go into this, and there's a determination as to what is above and beyond. So they do a very good job of managing and tracking pay items, and I know even in scenarios where things, when we write that check, if there aren't change orders, if there aren't additional costs, and things come in under, which rarely happens, but sometimes we get a check back too. So they do a really great job of tracking all of that.
And I just want the public to understand, this is a big project. We have the first structurally balanced budget in the history of our city, and anybody can look in our checking account to see how much money we have that we're committed to, not only this, but also applying July 1st for other road funds. We also have lead pipe we're replacing, wastewater work. So there's a lot of work, and either we can have low costs and no infrastructure that needs to be replaced, we're an older community, or improve the rates, increase the rates to competitive statewide rates for water, sewer, and be able to do the work that you're seeing on the letter and number streets, and be a progressive community and not wait for kids to play in the streets with waste backups coming from homes, and which we see every year. So the work needs to be done. We want, our residents deserve the best, but with that, this is a tremendous project that we always hear about. Indiana Ave needs to be done, needs to be done. It costs money to do it, so, and we've got a good partner, and Mike's available, Adam's always available, so we're excited to see this happen. Also, from a alternative route perspective, because I'm sure this will not be easy for those that travel Indiana Ave, will there be options, or what's the plan there?
Yeah, so we worked with the city on discussing what routes need to stay open when a section of it's closed. There'll be cross streets that will stay open depending on what phase they're in throughout construction. So locals should be able to get around fairly easy.
Because Ms. Romine, we want her
I
to be
do
able
drive
to
that way every day.
get to work
Streets,
easily.
so, yeah.
The phasing essentially never allows for two cross streets to be closed at the same, well, maybe not all, but generally at the same time. So that way, you're never going more than,
block
4 or
or
5
so.
blocks to get to a cross street versus
Okay.
having to go all the way to the start of the project or end of the project to cross.
Would we push the truck traffic to Boyd, though? I mean, that wouldn't be able to go on local lanes, right?
We have not really talked about
The
that.
official detour is, 35 is gonna be closed to truck traffic. And they're gonna go down 39-6 back to 2. So that's the way we're pushing them for the official detour. Obviously, we know that some trucks are still gonna try, don't believe the signs that are out there, and then they'll get stuck, but at least they'll be stuck on 35 where they can turn around if they don't truly believe the signs for some reason.
I
But
think the mayor would be happy to talk to him as
Well,
well.
I actually was gonna ask, so you said it's 39-6 to 2.
correct.
Yeah.
Do you believe that's too far of a route away for trucks to have to deal with? Is that too far away from where they need to go? Is that
We
too much
use
of a
the
detour?
closest state routes available for the state detours.
So you think that's an okay route for trucks to take?
During construction, yes.
It's not that big a deal?
during construction.
Good. So really, we could extend that further.
The state cannot restrict truck traffic on state routes. So unless the city would like to take over some,
Yes, a good, great idea, using that exact route and then not needing a corridor.
so if the city takes it over, you guys can do whatever you want. But as of right
Careful,
now,
Yes.
as of right now, city is not allowed to restrict truck traffic on state routes.
Further questions for Mike?
Well, I got one comment, talking about the investment here. I mean, we're talking about the city in particular, like somewhere around, 12% of the total cost of this project that we'd be responsible for. So that's it's a good deal, really, for us. And then just one question. I believe we've seen this before, but in terms of the lane structure of the reconstruction, is it, right now it's sort of like a 1.5 lanes or a 1 and 3. What is the lane structure going to be? I think we've seen it before, but I just can't recall.
So it's gonna be 1 lane each direction we're doing curb bump outs along certain intersections, and then as South Street's the last bump out section, but as we go down, there'll be parking lane striped, and then it sort of bumps back out again, just north of Kingsbury, to make sure they don't start gunning it, because as we know, it's sort of wide open there, so we narrowed that field to make sure that they slow down, they don't feel like they can start gunning it right off the bat, and it'll open back up to 4 lanes after Kingsbury Ave.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
all the way, so this will,
It's very confusing. You'll see a lot of people kind of teeter on 2 lanes and not know when they're coming.
Yeah, right now, so
from
after this
35.
project's done, it should be visibly clear, like, hey, don't go in the parking lane, like that, you can't drive there, as they do now, unfortunately, when they get into town.
what about all the way up, right past like where Jefferson, all the way up to Lincoln Way?
Jefferson Link Way, so that's gonna be
Where's
sort
that?
of so we're adding turn lanes, how you see there,
okay.
so there'll be turn lanes, but still 1 lane each direction with sidewalk, or street parking.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna ask about street parking. What's the timeline? Because it says the agreement expires after 5 years. Is that how long this is proposed to take?
No, it's gonna take 2 years, 2.5, I guess, if you consider starting in fall of 2024. The road construction will start in 2025 through 2026.
So 3 seasons, essentially.
Yeah.
And Mark, just, NDOT doesn't normally do this, but they are doing kind of fog line where to separate the parking from the drive lanes. It's not something that's required of them to do, but I think it'll also kind of add to that visual. It was something that their traffic department thought was important. So they're taking some extra steps to try and make sure that we have safe access to parking, but also those through lanes are well-defined.
Good, thank you.
NDOT's also building a very long outfall sewer, which is not their normal practice. So they're helping us out in that respect, too.
Thank you for that.
Jerry, will this address the issue? We had a sewer that you and I, or an issue with a house that, like, they have to go to Fox Street on Indiana Ave. Will this address that issue?
We've provided for taps for each lot,
Yeah.
so yes. Yep.
Do
And
you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and
Yeah.
we tried to resolve some of those when we redid
Yeah.
Fox Street and didn't get them all done because there weren't alternatives on Indiana Avenue. Now there'll be alternatives.
And this will also address Presbyterian Church, the
Yes.
water issue,
Yep.
which seems like forever ago that we first
Started talking about it.
talking about that, so that'll address that issue as well.
There's also at, just north of Family Express, there's an old turn-of-the-century brick sewer that crosses Indiana Avenue that'll get replaced. So that's a big deal.
And,
Turn of the.
The previous
Previous
century, sorry, the
but- okay,
previous
just-
century,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
And then to your point, Mark, with Nick Minnick's good work on the percentage of this, think about this, we're also able to do the Tipton overpass. That's also going to be happening at a 90-10, roughly.
Roughly,
The share cost?
yeah.
You're
Yes.
saying 90% them, 10%
for total project cost on that one, yeah.
So these are major projects that we're able to get done with responsible dollars. So we appreciate our sponsorship, and I look forward to working with Mike in the future as this agreement continues to move to how we can reduce those costs as well. So do I have a motion?
You have a motion and a
Do we have any
second.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Mike. Mary Ann Richards.
Good morning. I have a notice to proceed that requires the mayor to sign for the CDBG sidewalks.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. So this, did we adjust the cost of the
Yes.
sidewalks to
We reduced the-
600,000?
Yeah. I want to say 607,000.
And this will continue the work over by Lincoln.
Yes. This will be on Michigan Ave, Clay Street, Noble, maybe a block on Clayton, Maple.
But it'll address some of the lower income areas as well that we began.
That whole area is considered low to moderate income, so
And do you know when they'll begin?
hopefully next week.
Oh, good.
The first thing they'll start doing is removing trees and grinding stumps.
Will we be replacing those trees?
Yes. That is figured into the contract, the bid documents. And we're replacing 2 trees for every 1 tree that is removed.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Jerry Jackson.
The first item on the agenda is JPR General Services Agreement.
Hey, Jerry, microphone.
Thank you. The JPR General Services Agreement. I also wanted to talk about our McClung Road project at the, right here. The General Services Agreement is the same sort of agreement we have with Nice, and it allows me, if I need some assistance, like I needed some survey work the other day in regard to the Hunter's Woods project, drainage outside it. This would allow me to hire JPR to do that sort of work. It limits the total for a year to 25,000. And again, it doesn't limit it to wastewater, water, or engineering could use the same contract. And it's purely a matter of convenience. When you have a small little thing you need an engineering firm to do or some advice, this enables you to get it without going through a big rigmarole. So I'd ask the Board of Works to approve the general services agreement for JPR.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank
New waste hauler permit.
Can we go to McClung Road now?
Absolutely.
Talk about that. Dan Byam's here with JPR, if you want to present your analysis of the bid.
No problem. Thanks, guys. I sat a bidding results summary in front of you guys for our McClung Road Pressure Sewer System Extension Project. The city collected bids last Friday, May 3rd, and below on the letter is a summary of the bid results. I should note that H&G Underground Utilities has a typo on their bid total. It is 607,944.43. I realized that while I was sitting here. I apologize. But
I'm sorry,
607,944.43. So the engineer's estimate for the project was estimated at roughly 500,000 at 498,361. Apparent low bid came from TGB Unlimited with the grand total bid price of 509,256, which is roughly 2% over the engineer's estimate. A full bid tab's attached to the letter on 11 by 17 paper, if you'd like to look at each pay item on there. We reviewed all of the bid packages from all the bidders and found that they were acceptable in accordance with our bidding instructions, and wanted to start a discussion regarding award of the contract and acceptance of the bids.
I did some calls to former customers, I called the cities of towns of Welcott, Remington, and DeMott. Got somewhat mixed reviews. There was a potential safety issue where they had a trench and a open trench with men working in it, and a loader went by, which could, it was a 4-foot trench where you're getting on the edge of shoring, needed or not needed, and they thought that was unsafe. One of the other towns had a storm sewer that was hit. And then Remington, they did a big project for Remington, and Remington was very positive and sent a letter, which I forwarded to the board, that they gave them a referral letter, and were very positive. So generally, not huge things, but there was, as when you do a project, I guess I wasn't too surprised. I can find problems with any contractor who's worked for us, and that wasn't too surprising. TGB is the spin-off out of Bancroft Electric, and they do directional drilling primarily is what they do. They would be required to follow our bidding ordinance, where they have to pay the prevailing wage rates and submit payroll to prove that they've done that. You have some familiarity with them also, right?
Yeah.
Work in South Bend, or Mishawaka, you said you talked about, right?
Yes, yeah, I talked to the city of Mishawaka, and I talked to the toll road concession company, and both of them gave glowing reviews.
Gave,
Glowing?
Glowing reviews, yeah.
I guess, $100,000 is a big number. And I think to Jerry's point, we've had some issues with, I think one was a union contractor, another was a non-union contractor that came well below, and we had issues with both. We're dealing with one right now. So from Mr. Otis's perspective, what protection do we have? We've got the responsible bidders ordinance. If TGB, and where are they based out of?
They're based out of South Bend, I think? Yes.
I guess South Bend, yeah, on their.
If we start running into another issue like
KDM.
Are we allowed to say?
I hope not that.
KDM, which was a nightmare. I don't want to.
I think you have to go with the lowest, most responsive bid, and obviously, if you have concerns about the bidder, so the issue with, again, and I won't get with KDM is, I understand it, they had not previously been a general contractor on projects. It sounds like, Jerry, your calls, TGB has been, is that fair?
For sure,
Yeah.
This is a small project for them.
Right. KDM, and again, I'm not trying to besmirch them. I think one of the main issues we had was change orders without, they have to get approved by Board of Works. You can't just do change orders. We're not private, so we can't just do those on the fly. It takes time. So that was the big issue with that one. Certainly that he identified some concerns. I think, I'll leave it to you. I think you could justify not going with them if you, lowest and most responsive, but at the same time, the things that Jerry found, nobody wants OSHA violations, but that does happen sometimes, on job sites, so.
Well, I think certainly, obviously, significant difference, right? So that's something we're looking at, but kind of the one safety piece, right, with the loader, with the trench, like, is there some ability for us to have either oversight to ensure that, or what level of oversight do we have in this type of a project?
In this particular contract, we haven't, generally, if we do construction oversight, construction services, that's a separate contract, and we haven't done that yet. If we want someone there watching while the work's being done, which I think is usually a good idea, we can get another contract. We've done that for just virtually every contract we do. We'll get a separate construction services that'll have their eye on the contractor, make sure it's done right, make sure the as-built are produced, all that sort of thing. So that would be our oversight.
But didn't we just do that with JPR.
Right.
Hire them to help out, do they, do
That was the general services, it wasn't construction services for McClung Road in particular.
Yeah, if there was a construction services agreement, that would be completely separate from the general services.
Yeah, and that gives you a person on site watching the job, who's knowledgeable in construction.
So generally speaking, what would that add to the cost?
Right.
We usually estimate, what, 10%?
So what I usually, what we've found is, I believe it's one project inspector full-time on a project is, on a 12-month construction project is about 200,000 total. So you'd be talking a 6-month construction window here, and you probably wouldn't need full-time.
So you're probably saying 50 grand if we're
Yeah,
talking 10%,
somewhere
so
in
then
there.
all of a sudden,
Would that be for any contractor in which we awarded this contract?
Yeah, that would be, in general, I'll be asking for the same, well, the state will have that for Indiana Avenue, of course, that's a giant project. When we do our Headworks project, I'll be asking for someone to do construction services also.
So
We'd have it
regardless of.
regardless.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, regardless of who is approved, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And what is your recommendation, Jerry?
I'm familiar with Bancroft enough, and I wasn't really the concerns I heard about aren't a full stop, I'd say. So I'd say recommend, go ahead with the low bid.
I just want to make sure that we're on them from the start. Day one, if that's the way we're gonna go, is make sure we're monitoring them.
Well, and I'd say to, not just to monitor, but even to express the concerns up front and frequently to make sure that we don't have these kind of issues.
Yep.
Because heaven forbid, one mistake where there's someone's at risk.
Yeah.
We are a little bigger than Remington,
We'll have a
as a
pre-construction
comparison.
meeting and get those concerns out.
Motion to approve or make recommendation?
So moved.
Second, I thought we had one, no.
Sorry, I thought we did too.
we already have one?
Did we?
No, okay.
No.
Second,
That you're recommending, for the record, TGB unlimited.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have,
I was gonna say, also, I've included a copy of the notice of award form for the project. And if the board so chooses, I can work with Jerry and you, Mayor Dermody, to get that issued following this meeting.
so do you need a motion for that?
Probably to have you sign it on behalf of the board.
You want me to amend my
Separate
motion,
motion?
Courtney? Sure. I'll amend to award the bid to TGB Unlimited and as well allow JPR to create the document to move forward.
And have Mayor Dermody sign.
And have Mayor Dermody sign.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
Waste hauler permit.
This is for Northern Plant Services. They're located in Portage, Indiana. We do not expect them to haul a bunch of wastewater over here, but sometimes they have work in this area and they wanted to get approved discharge septage at LaPorte's wastewater plant. I'd recommend approval. They've been, they let their registration lapse, but they've been a customer before and they wanted to renew it.
So no issues with prior?
No
times?
issues
Okay.
with prior.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Basement backup grant.
This is for 1402 D Street. The estimate to do the work is $3,975. LaPorte's share would be $3,231.25. The resident would pay $743.75. This is only our second for the year, and Mr. Mine asked last time what we spent last year, and I printed that all out and left it sitting on the printer.
Oh, I know that.
You've got that? Okay. Good deal. So last year, we spent $15,835.27. So that left 4,000, so we used most of the 20,000 we had used, had dedicated for it. This year, we've spent $2,856.25, so.
How
with
much
all-
does that do with the letter and number upgrades you're doing? Because that's where we seem to get most of our backups.
We definitely have done ones over there, and we shouldn't get any more, I'll put it that way. The letters and numbers north, we get them in that area from 10th Street up to Lincoln Way, and we get them in the Triangle area and further east, all that combined sewer, they're kind of scattered, depending on plumbing especially. But it all helps, we don't get any more from Monroe Manor, because that's all gone. Everywhere we separate, that problem goes away.
That's awesome.
Yep. So I'd recommend approval of the grant.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Just one more question. I
Yes.
think you said that last year we spent 16,000, and then the remaining of that we had budgeted for up to 20 rolls forward into the next year. Is that how you do it typically?
It stays in the budget, but we've had 20,000 a year is how we've done it. We've not rolled it over and added it.
Gotcha.
Could be done that way, but we haven't.
Further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Pay request.
This is for our letters and numbers project, contract 2A, in the amount of $218,878.57. So it's 218,878.57. To HRP Construction. This is the water main and storm sewer work. I'd recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I didn't give you the percentage. I usually calculate that. We're at 2.4 million out of 2.7.
So getting close.
Getting close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Jerry.
And then contract 2B for the letters and numbers, that's the street portion. And that's for 81,778.37, 81,778.37. I'd recommend approval. On this one, we're not quite as close. We're at 2.1 million out of 2.7. I'd recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Phillips, oh, I'm sorry, Chief Buell. How could I forget you?
I know. On May 1st, I accepted a letter of retirement from Captain Paul Breton. I would ask the board to accept that retirement letter. I don't know if you have a copy of it or not. I could read the first paragraph. That would be sufficient. Otherwise, it's lengthy.
I have the letter.
Yeah,
Do
we
you
have
it?
the
You have
letter,
it?
yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved.
No, a second.
Second.
Discussion, just like to thank Chief Buell for all that, or former Chief Buell, for all, geez, oh, Peach Breton.
You
for all
already
that
got rid of me?
he's- For all the work, 30 years, right? And he
Yeah, it was about
stepped
30
up
years, and his last day will be the 23rd of this month.
And appreciate all that he did, stepping into the chief role at a time when it was needed. So definitely appreciate that. Further comment?
Well said.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Craig Phillips.
So I have two requests for approval for property zoning. The first one, so we're working with an affordable housing developer that has worked with several cities across the state. They started out in Evansville. They've done work in several cities, including Kokomo, Vincennes, Marion, Corydon. They're currently working in South Bend, and they're looking at doing some work in Elkhart as well. The name of this company is Advantix Corporation. They're looking at doing a series of townhomes as part of a low-income housing tax credit program. And they're working with the city as well as private owners to identify locations in LaPorte for providing this housing, which, as you may know from the housing study that was done, we have a significant need for the provision of housing all across the spectrum, especially with regard to housing at the low and moderate income levels in our community. So we've identified some parcels in the community where we think that this housing would be a good fit. We're currently working with the park board on a location, working with a private property owner on a location in the First Ward area, and have a couple of properties that, one is the primary objective, the other one is a kind of a backup option. You have before you some information I've given you, both beacon sheets from the GIS system that outline the general location of parcels that would be basically carved out, if you will, of existing city property for the provision of this. The first one and the primary one is located on Boyd Boulevard near the eastern end of Jefferson. This is an area that we anticipate there being a mixture of development types ranging from residential. In the large residential projects we anticipate in the future in the vicinity to the west of the property, business park to the east, and then some light industrial and business park uses to the north. But the idea of providing some housing in reasonably close proximity to employers is a good idea. We also have identified this area of East Boyd Boulevard as part of a greenway, a future greenway for the city. So the idea of extending the concept of the 18th Street Greenway further east and north along Boyd Boulevard, and kind of tying together some of the properties along Boyd Boulevard from more of a pedestrian standpoint in the future as well. And Nick Minnick had to leave for another meeting with NERC and NDOT, but he was going to explain as well, I think, that we're also looking at trying to incorporate some of, as part of some of the stormwater projects we're planning on doing in this area immediately to the east of this property, incorporating some walking paths and some other things into this area. So it's a unique opportunity. It's kind of a nice setting with wetlands and stormwater areas, et cetera, that we plan on making improvements to. You also have, as a separate sheet, we put together a concept for the developer of what the townhomes would look like on that part of the property that looks like this, and you can see the storm detention area to the east. So the idea would be to provide, in this, I think in this concept, there's about 20 to 24 townhomes on the property, and two-story townhomes basically for, like I said, low to moderate income housing. The second site is kind of a backup, but I wanted to get permission to include this property just in the event that they're interested in using this as well. And it's a property that's located on Lake Street near the intersection of Central Ave, in that area where you kind of have an old extension of Lily Lake, which is kind of leftover, stormwater area adjacent to the neighborhoods to the north. There's an area of high ground that kind of extends all along the south edge of that. We did verify some contours to make sure that that's, when you drive by there, it's a little deceiving. It doesn't look like you can build anything there, but there actually is quite a bit of room there. And again, we put a concept together there. There's a map that shows kind of what the outline of the area would be. It would roughly follow the contour of the area that would be above what we would consider the base flood elevation. And what they're calling for there is about 10 townhouses in the event that they look at that as an option. And so what I'm requesting today for these two sites is approval for several things. Approval to create separate parcels out of these existing city parcels, as well as be able to do the appraisals necessary to continue to work with this affordable housing developer, and then apply for approvals, zoning approvals, whether it's Plan Commission or Board of Zoning Appeals. We're still trying to determine the best fit for that for the June meeting of either one of those bodies. They both take place on the same day.
And Mr. Otis, can we combine Boyd Boulevard and Lake Street together as one?
Yeah, one motion.
One motion? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
You're asking for the approval to create the separate parcels?
To
and
separate
kinda
parcels,
move
the
forward with-
appraisals, and to apply for the zoning
Okay.
for these.
So, second.
So I do have a motion and a second. I will tell you, Advantix has been, you know, has had excellent success throughout the state. And they really feel like LaPorte, from a tax credit perspective with the state, for some reason, LaPorte looks really good for
Can I
affordable
explain that
housing.
real quick?
Please do.
So right now, so normally when the state puts out what they call low-income housing tax credits, they're competitive. And the larger cities tend to be able to compete better for those dollars because of the size and their resources available, et cetera. It's a scoring-based system. It's competitive. There's a score that's assigned. And when you have larger low to moderate income populations, larger, you know, numbers of people that can be served, those cities like Evansville and Indianapolis and Fort Wayne and South Bend can, you know, they're the ones that are able to compete for those dollars. However, this year, and we're told by Advantix this year only, the state has actually modified their program and they're focused on smaller cities. And so Advantix feels, and the reason they approached us was they feel that we are positioned to score well in this round to get the low-income housing tax credits from the state for this round. And they're not sure that that's going to be an option going forward in the future. So we've been working diligently to identify a combination of public as well as private properties to put together roughly 45 townhomes to serve the needs of our community. And so we're working with a private property owner, like I said, on the east side of the city, northeast side of the city, and also working with the park board on a site that we've identified as part of our housing study that we just the housing and downtown regeneration study that we completed with Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame. So, so yeah, it's kind of been, it's an overall bigger effort that's the city's parcels are just a portion of. So.
Are these townhomes purchased by the homeowner?
They're
or
leased to
they-
own, so over the course of 15 years, the people that are leasing them, if they've been in them for 15 years, have the option of then owning them at the end of that 15-year term.
Is there an expected or anticipated, like, monthly cost?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I just know that it does qualify as low to moderate income. So there are income limits that apply in order to qualify for those units.
And I can tell you, Craig has covered the whole basis. He's been from parks
I've scoured the city.
to diocese and everything, schools and everything in between, has met with everybody. This is really important that we talk about affordable housing, lower income housing, and putting people in homes that they can literally rent to own, and at that end of the 15 years, have home ownership, which I think is something not only the city wants, but also Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte has been a big proponent of home ownership as well. So
And Advantix holds onto their properties. They don't build these properties and then flip them. They hold onto their properties. They build very nice units. I've actually talked to some people in the other communities where they've done work, and we've gotten some positive reviews on the work that they've done. They both rehab existing facilities as well as build new, and they have several different options that we can choose from in terms of how these look, that sort of thing. They're also planning on putting in a daycare center and some playground areas as part of their developments as well. So it really is kind of an overall package that they're planning on providing as part of the project. So.
I do have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Yeah, I would just make one comment. So I like the idea, especially along Boyd Boulevard, of there being, you know, sidewalk, greenway, whatever,
Yep.
and obviously proximity to a lot of employers. So it'd be great to be able to have option for people to walk versus not on the side of the street. And then the only thing about Lake Street, I just thought is, it seems like that, the sort of pull-in parking, I don't know if there's a way to.
It's not optimal. Like I said, this is a backup,
Okay.
and that isn't their first choice of site. They've got two other sites that are primary along with the Boyd Boulevard site.
So this is, we're exploring both, not necessarily doing both. I mean, I think the Lake Street is it's a nice area, right?
Yeah, and that's an initial
Aesthetically,
layout. The layout can change.
Okay.
We can modify that.
They're looking at other LaPorte locations?
Yes.
City of LaPorte? Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
gotcha.
they're looking at a park location as well as a private property, currently a private property location, former public property, but currently a private property location as well on the northeast side of the city.
And you think about this project along with housing opportunities, which begins
I don't
in
want
May.
to
I think
impact that
that's,
private property owner right now by
No, right,
saying
I
where that's at.
understand.
I think the housing opportunities is out for bid right now for those apartments that'll have wraparound services on site at the former Coke building. So we're excited about that. So
What is the timeline for that, and what is going on with the Habitat for Humanity houses? Can you update
Coke
on
building
both
is
of
supposed to
those?
be moving forward starting this summer as far,
Correct.
they're out for bid currently and hopefully gonna be starting construction later this summer, early fall. Habitat for Humanity, just dedicated their first home, they're getting started on their second home. So they're moving along. It's been a little bit slower process than they wanted because they have to work with the various funding sources that they have, and those are federal dollars and a lot of federal and state dollars both. And there's sometimes some hangups associated with those, but they are making progress on that site.
And Jess knows how to use a hammer, so they'd more than welcome her to help pound a few nails
I
out there.
thought you meant Jess Bruder.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Nick Tucker King. Request to bid water main materials.
Yeah, so this is for the Thomas Rose extension. The bid is to cover materials for installation, essentially extending our services to the western portion of the Thomas Rose TIF area between Genesis and Park Street there. And then there's going to be a focus on creating a connection to 39 North so that we can get a proper service out to them eventually too.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, and I just want the public to know, there's a lot of work going on, a lot of construction happening in the city of LaPorte. We expect that to continue. We've got a lot of upgrades to do. We haven't even hit Tim Werner's water too much at this meeting, but questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Pay application, Civic.
So the pay application is in the amount of roughly $173,000. And it's for the Phase 2 portion of Civic. We still have one invoice left to kind of ensure that the project is completed to city standards.
Which now has air conditioning officially.
I do believe so.
Yes.
Just in time. Make
Motion.
a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I know we all have meetings to jump right into right now. Unfinished business, just thanking everybody that went out and found a couple minutes to have their voice heard yesterday. It pays off, getting out the vote, and we still need more, and there's a fall election, so everybody needs to do their duty. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Have a great day, everybody.